We all have hundreds of numbers in our heads, PIN numbers, birthdays, anniversaries, but how many of us actually know our cholesterol number? Cholesterol plays a role in over half of all heart attacks and 20% of strokes. Here to help us break down the numbers is Health Director for Family Circle, Meg Ragland. Meg, thank you so much for being here today.
It's great to be here, Vanita. Thank you.
So this is embarrassing to admit, but I don't really know a good definition for cholesterol. I know what it is vaguely, but what's the best way to understand what it is?
That's pretty common. Most people think, oh, cholesterol is just this bad thing out there. But it's actually vitally important in our bodies. Cholesterol, it's a waxy, fatty-like substance, but it helps produce different hormones in our body, as well as vitamin D, and it also helps protect our cells and our nerves. So it is important. The problem is when we have too much cholesterol, and that's often affected by the types of fats that we eat.
You mentioned that notion of fats, but before we even get to that, the number that people always associate cholesterol with a certain number, what's healthy, what's not. So is that number a ratio of the amount of fat you have in your body to what you should have?
Well, usually when you go to your doctor, he says your cholesterol is this. And many doctors now are breaking it down for folks into they are good cholesterol and they're bad cholesterol. You've probably heard of the HDL as the good cholesterol, the high density lipoproteins. And that cholesterol actually helps us fight the bad cholesterol, the LDL, which is really the plaque that builds up on the arteries. Whereas the HDL kind of goes in there as like a scrub brush that cleans up that LDL.
And what you eat really sort of affects where those numbers are, because I think some of the trigger words we're always hearing now are polyunsaturated fats, monounsaturated fats. You see it on bags of chips even now. What do all those words really mean when you break them down?
Well, that's what we really have to pay attention to, is the types of fats that we're eating. And we can break them down into good fats and bad fats. The good ones we should try to eat more of, and the bad ones a little less of. So the best fats are the polyunsaturated fats, and those you'll find in your fish products like the salmon or tuna, certain vegetable oils like corn oil, walnuts are a good source, and the monounsaturated are also good fats that you'll find in avocados, all natural peanut butter, olive oil.
Is it safe to say that a lot of processed foods then don't have those good fats?
Yeah, the processed foods are those are the worst. We broke it down in the magazine into good, bad, and ugly. And so the bads are the saturated fats. And so those are the meat products, the high fat dairy products, and then the trans fats, which you mentioned, are supposedly the worst, the uglies. And those you find in the processed baked goods, fried foods, foods that want to have a shelf life. So they are hydrogenated, so unfortunately they're not very healthy for us. So those we should keep to a minimum.
What about when you're shopping in the grocery store? Is there something that you can do when you're turning over labels? Because I feel like right now there's so much information on labels, it's often overwhelming. You don't know what you should be looking for. So what's the best indicator to know what kind of fat is in something when you see total fat in something?
Well, you should look for saturated fat because you want to keep that below 16 grams a day, and that can add up quickly. Just one bowl of ice cream or one big juicy hamburger can be your limit on the saturated fat for a day. And also look for trans fat. You'll see a lot of products now say on them 0 trans fat, which is great, that's good, you don't want any trans fat, but also do look at the ingredients label, because if it says that something is a partially hydrogenated oil in it, it still could have smaller amounts, less than 0.5 grams of trans fat. But if you eat a lot of that product, because most of us eat more than one serving when we grab crackers or a piece of coffee cake in the morning, so still watch out on your intake and try to avoid those foods.
Again and again we hear quit smoking, and it sounds like that is yet another cause for having a high LDL and a low HDL. So that is one of the quintessential things in terms of getting healthy, just to get rid of the smoking.
Yeah, many studies have found that if you quit smoking, that your HDL, that's the good cholesterol, will go up.
What about wine? I was pleasantly surprised looking at the article that a woman can have a glass of red wine.
One glass is good to keep to one a day, and that can also raise your good cholesterol, the HDL.
What about just in general slimming down? I mean, are there some rules for the average woman when she should know my weight is not at a healthy place? Even without knowing the number, I should know my cholesterol is probably in that danger zone.
That's true. I mean, anyone who's overweight, especially if someone is obese, then they really do have to watch out. And losing, even just for every 7 pounds you lose, you significantly improve your cholesterol levels.
And that really is about dietary choices. So independent of that, because I think a lot of times people think it's all about calories. If I'm watching calories and I'm thin, I'm okay. But cholesterol, a thin woman can have a high cholesterol.
Definitely, that's definitely the case. So diet and exercise are the most important, but some bodies some people's bodies just produce, their livers just automatically produce a lot of cholesterol. In those cases, those folks might need to look for medication as well. So statins are very popular and reduce cholesterol significantly. But that needs to be paired with the healthy diet and plenty of exercise. The Surgeon General now recommends 30 minutes of exercise most days of the week.
Is there a genetic component to cholesterol?
There definitely is. Some people are more prone. It's naturally produced. We actually make enough cholesterol in our own bodies as much as we need, and some bodies just make too much. So despite, they could be eating totally right and really watching the fats they eat, but still have high cholesterol. And those are the folks that probably have to turn to medication.
When you say medication, are there pills then that can really go in and lower someone's cholesterol? And if so, is that something your general doctor prescribes, or is that something that you really need to be seeing a specialist for?
Well, you should first, of course, with your primary care physician, get a handle on what your cholesterol is, and you might be referred then to a cardiologist, depending, or your primary care physician. But yes, statins have been proven to greatly reduce up to between 20 and up to 60% some people.
In writing these articles, what have you found that you feel like women are the least knowledgeable when it comes to cholesterol? Because like I said, I think every person thinks they have some base of knowledge, and then you read an article like this one and you think, I didn't know as much as I thought I did.
Right. Well, a lot of people think, oh, I don't even know my cholesterol, but those who know it, even if they're told that it's high, they don't feel bad. They feel fine. They don't have any symptoms, so that's easy for them to ignore. But this is vitally important, and it's such the leading cause. 50% of heart attacks can be linked to high cholesterol, and a significant number of strokes. So women really need to get a handle on their cholesterol and take action to make sure they keep their numbers low. Below 200 is what you want to strive for in terms of total cholesterol.
I have to ask, because you mentioned symptoms, what would be the symptoms that someone should be wary of if their cholesterol is high and they haven't been tested?
They're probably not going to have any symptoms of high cholesterol. That's why we really need to encourage people to, if they haven't been to a doctor recently, or go to their doctor and say, I really need to find out. I don't know. And most women, healthy women, should have their cholesterol taken about every 5 years. Folks who are over 55 or have a family history of heart disease should be tested even more often than that.
Well, Margaret, it really was educational hearing all these things. Like I said, I think we hear cholesterol, we think we know what it is, but we don't. So it really was educational. And again, we want to thank you, and we'll be looking out for that article in the Family Circle.
ABC News Now. Good to know.